while Muhammad had united all of Arabia, the moment he died, Arabia was not as convinced in following his successors. So basically, almost all the cities and tribes in Arabia decided to abandon Islam and follow their own prophets instead, one of whom was already active in the lifetime of Muhammad, named Musaylima. Tabari put it this way: now the Arabs had apostatized, either generally or as particular individuals in every tribe. Hypocrisy appeared, and the Jews and Christians began to exalt themselves, and the Muslims were like sheep on a cold and rainy night because of the loss of their prophet, and because of their fewness and multitude of their enemy. But Abu Bakr acted fast. Initially, there was an army coming from the north to attack Medina, and Abu Bakr marshaled his troops, defeated that army, set up a forward base of operation, and sent his generals on a year-long campaign to bring Arabia back under the authority of the Muslim community. It was a bitter conflict, and the decisive battle of this war was called the Battle of Yamama. At this battle, 800 men who'd memorized the Qur'an died. And this was significant because the Qur'an had not been written down anywhere in one place at this point. So it led to this conversation between Abu Bakr and Omar. Omar said, "Casualties were heavy among the Qurra of the Qur'an," meaning those who memorized the Qur'an, "on the day of the Battle of Yamama, and I am afraid that more heavy casualties may take place among the Qurra on other battlefields, whereby a large part of the Qur'an may be lost. Therefore, I suggest you, Abu Bakr, order that the Qur'an be collected." Abu Bakr replied, "How can you do something which Allah's apostle did not do?" Omar replied, "By Allah, it is a good project." Abu Bakr was convinced, and so he gathered the manuscript of the Qur'an and compiled it in one place and gave the copy to Hafsa, the widow of Muhammad and the daughter of Omar. Khalid ibn Walid was a prominent general during the time of Muhammad, who became the overall commander during the Battle of Mu'tah. And Khalid was also the one that delivered the Muslims victory on the day of Yamama. At this time, Arabs were not only in Arabia. Arab culture also existed in Syria and in Persia. And immediately, Abu Bakr sent Khalid to fight the Arabs in Iraq and expand the territory of the Muslims. Now, people wonder why the Muslims expanded outwards, but this was clearly the intention of Muhammad himself. We see this from the Battle of Mu'tah, where he attacked the Byzantines, and it's clear from the expedition to Tabuk as well, where no battle took place, but clearly Muhammad had northward aims towards the end of his life, and the Muslims were simply following what he had set down for them to do. But initially, the wars between the Muslims and the Byzantines and the Persians were actually really just sort of inter-Arab wars, but these Arabs were part of these empires and auxiliaries, which inevitably led to wider conflicts with the two big empires that they were attached to. The Byzantines, the Romans, they would have called themselves the Romans, but based in Constantinople, not Rome, and the Sassanid Persians had had a massive war where they almost destroyed each other right before this. So they were at a particularly vulnerable time. When Khalid would ride out to do battle with these Arab tribes, this is what Tabari records him having says: "I call you to God, to his worship, and to Islam. If you accept, you obtain the benefits we enjoy, and take up the responsibilities we bear. If you refuse, then you must pay the jizya." That's a tax paid by non-Muslims. "If you refuse the jizya, then we will bring against you a people who love death more than you love drinking wine." They answered, "We have no need to fight you." He made peace with them and the payment of 190,000 dirhams. So Khalid was having victory wherever he went in Iraq. But at one point, he left his post in Iraq to make an authorized Hajj, and is then sort of demoted and sent to Syria by Abu Bakr. Khalid is very much his own man. He takes a lot of initiative, but that sometimes leads him to clashing with his superiors. So the fighting is a little bit heavier in Syria. So Abu Bakr sends 4 commanders to fight various battles and take various cities apart from each other. And these commanders are Khalid ibn Walid, but it also includes a guy called Muawiyah. Both of these guys are going to be very significant later. One of the things they do early on is that they besiege Damascus and they take it. So the Byzantine Empire, stationed in Constantinople, is seeing these attacks and is getting ready for a massive counterattack. So they muster the biggest army that they can gather. The Byzantine army is marching south, the Muslim armies are marching north, and they're getting ready to fight each other. As this is happening, Abu Bakr is an old man who is nearing the end of his life. He then gets a fever and he is sick for 15 days and he knows that his death is coming. While he's doing this, Abu Bakr calls his advisors around him and tells them that he intends to nominate Omar as his successor. And while some of them push back a little bit, they trust Abu Bakr's judgment, and Omar is appointed as Abu Bakr's successor before he dies. Omar's a very harsh guy. Abu Bakr perceives that Omar is being extra harsh because he perceives Abu Bakr as weak, and he says he'll grow past this once he's actually the leader. Some of Abu Bakr's last words are, "I wish that I had not thrown open the house of Fatima. I also wish I had asked God's messenger about whom the government rests, so that no one would contend about it." Then Omar takes his place and becomes what the Muslims call commander of the faithful.